Why the Royal Scam, 1976, now? Well, for one thing, it's 50 years since the album came out. We're on the eve of 2026. 50 years ago, where were you when you first heard that Steely Dan album? Now, it was their sixth album. You had Countdown, which was Can't Buy a Thrill, Countdown, Pretzel Logic, Katie Lied, fifth album, 1976. The country was wrapped in a lot of confusion, right? United States, where Steely Dan is from, Mr. Becker and Mr. Fagan, moving from New York to California. But Watergate was the big news at that point, right? The Watergate hearings had been, we'd had turnovers in presidents. We were in between Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter, who got elected in the end of 76. So where were you? Why does this album matter? Well, one of the reasons it matters, and let me show you a copy of it. Here it is, The Royal Scam. Side 1, side 2, great graphics, right? Was that the album challenges you, right? The album is there for you to listen to. It's not an album that feeds it to you, that feeds you pablum, that strokes you, that coddles you, right? Right off the bat, we've got Kid Charlemagne, right? A magnificent song, Larry Carlton solo, the bass, the drums. It grips you, right? It takes you by the throat and doesn't let go. And it talks about swindlers and illusion and scams, right? And isn't that relevant now? Isn't that the time we're going through now? Don't we see that on the front pages every day? We don't really have front pages. So Royal Scam, Steely Dan, why now? Well, I wanted to pick an album for the channel that was relevant now, but also classic in that great 70s period. So it was right smack dab in the middle, being 1976. And it has some magnificent lyrics. I mean, drinking from the cocoa shell, right? There's Becker and Fagan on the back here, all the lyrics. They printed all the lyrics on this. I think this was the first time that they did that, right? I don't think all the lyrics were on Katie Lied. I have to check that. You have Don't Take Me Alive, one of my favorite songs on the album, right? About I'm a bookkeeper's son, I don't want to hurt no one, and I left my old man back in Oregon. I mean, that's Bob Dylan worthy lyrics right there, guys, right? Right? So where were you? 1976, I was 19 years old, to tell you where I was, and you think about where you were when you first heard Royal Scam. Remember my friend Andy, he was my best friend in college. I went to college out in Chicago at Northwestern. And me and Andy, we would go on road trips. We went down for spring break, and we would make cassettes, right, in the car. Remember cassettes? Before streaming, before CDs, you had cassettes, mixed cassettes. So we would put cassettes on. And we had the Royal Scam. We had a lot of Steely Dan, Katie Lied, Royal Scam. Next year, Asia, of course. And we would put it on and drive. And he loved Steely Dan. He really turned me on to Steely Dan. I think my first Steely Dan I heard was Katie Lied. So this was one of the first new albums that came out. And we played it a lot. I think it belonged to somebody else at that point, because this is a newer copy. What press do you get? Do you get an OG? Do you get one of the analog productions, 45 RPM, repressed, remastered versions, the real high fidelity? Do you get, I think MoFi did, I think they've done most of the Steely Dans, or some other press. Well, I have an ABC. I'll show you the labels on it. Yeah, here it is. The ABC Records. There's the label with the kind of the sunrise, sunshine label, right? There's the second side. and the first side, right? And you've got tongue-in-cheek like the Fez, which is, how do I say it for YouTube carefully? It's about males' efforts at contraception. There's a good way to put it. Don't ever do it without the Fez on. Leave your imagination to the rest. Also, you've got Sign and Stranger. The Eagles name-checked Steely Dan after this, so in not Sign and Stranger, I'm sorry, Tell Me Everything You Did, Baby, which is a kind of a jealous guy. He thinks he's pretty sure his girl is cheating. Turn Up the Eagles, the neighbors are listening, I guess, either because that could be a double entendre, either because they're fighting or because she's, doing something with this other guy. But anyway, they name checked the Eagles, make a long story short, and then the Eagles the next year in '77 came out with Hotel California and, of course, said, you stab it with their steely knives, but you just can't kill the beast, which was widely taken to be a Steely Dan reference. So what else? The Royal Scam. I've always thought the Royal Scam itself reminded me of Watergate. Not literally, but you had, they wandered in from the city of St. John, a lot of the people guys that actually did the Watergate, which was a bungled burglary by the Republicans of the Democratic National Headquarters. And the guys who did it were CIA stooges, flunkies from Cuba. So St. John, Cuba, red and green. It mentions New York City on the tide. So you would think Cubans would probably come in, if not through Miami, they would come in through New York and then but those particular Cubans, or even come in maybe from city of St. John, was maybe even Florida. There's St. John's down there. A lot of Saints, Johns. Anyway, and what else? Kid Charlemagne I love because of the Owsley reference. The Dayglow freaks who used to paint their face. They've joined the human race. Again, just great lyrics. And talking about Owsley, who was the sound man and made LSD, of course, for the Grateful Dead, and how that changed. And the mob took over, and the white powder and all that stuff. Sort of almost Godfather-like themes. I'm not going to get into the powder. I'm not going to get into the drugs. So Royal Scam. I mean, it challenges us. It's there. It's present. And the wonderful thing, I've been reading some stuff and listening to stuff about physical media, right? About having albums, right? Having a whole thing rather than streaming or something that's up on the cloud or AI. Is this this is it's it's three-dimensional, right? And you take it out and you plunk it on the turntable, right? And you drop the needle, and it's got all that wonderful stuff. And you can take out the sheet here, the inner sleeve, and read along with the liner notes that and Becker and Fagan wrote all these songs, of course, guys from just up the river in not that up the river, but at Bard College, where they went with, of course, people know the story, with Chevy Chase, who played drums in one of their first bands, and the Dan of Steel, So I feel that this album is extremely relevant in 2026. It's there, it's present. It asks us to be present. It asks us to listen. It asks us to participate. And I'm going to ask you all to participate. What's your favorite Steely Dan album? Where does the Royal Scam fall in your ranking, I guess, of the Steely Dan albums, in your favorites? And what's your favorite cut from Royal Scam? Assuming that you have one. If you don't, I urge you to go out and listen to it. And that's a great thing about physical media. And speaking of physical media, this is a physical media. If you'd please like and subscribe and comment down below about what you like about the Royal Scam and Steely Dan. If you don't like Steely Dan, I know not everybody is crazy about them. They can be an acquired taste too. They're popular in many circles. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next video, and thank you for stopping by.